Rain drifts softly across the gates of Royal Lodge, blurring the line between what is seen and what is merely imagined. Behind the frosted windows, two familiar silhouettes move in quiet rhythm. A divorced couple whose daily proximity defies every expectation of royal life. It is here, in this gentle confusion of past and present, that the central contradiction of Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew begins to take shape. For more than 3 decades, theirs has been a partnership that refused to dissolve neatly with the end of a marriage. Reports have often noted the ease with which they occupy the same space. Shared dogs, shared memories, and in many ways, a shared life. While their roles within the monarchy shifted, her through reinvention and public optimism, him through scrutiny and retreat, the connection between them appeared to remain curiously unchanged. Observers describe a bond that feels less like a chapter concluded and more like a rhythm that never quite stopped. Sarah Ferguson rebuilt her standing through charity, writing, and sheer resilience. Prince Andrew, facing unprecedented public examination, withdrew into a world defined increasingly by silence. And yet, throughout it all, she stayed close. A presence that seemed to offer both steadiness and structure in moments when certainty grew thin. It is this enduring closeness that unsettles simple narratives. Divorce suggests distance. Theirs created a different kind of dependence. Loyalty became the architecture of their quiet life, raising a question that lingers beneath their every appearance. If redemption is a journey, why does his always lead back to her? As the rain settles on Windsor's old stone, the intrigue deepens. What looks from afar like an ordinary companionship may in fact be one of the monarchy's most revealing contradictions. In the years after their separation, Sarah Ferguson began a slow and deliberate reinvention. She wrote children's books filled with warmth, embraced charity work with visible energy, and appeared on television with a candour that softened earlier headlines. Her resilience, often noted by observers, helped her carve out a relatable identity beyond palace formality. A rare position for someone no longer inside the royal fold. Prince Andrew's public image changed far less. While he continued traditional duties, his role remained steady rather than adaptive, creating a quiet contrast with Fergie's evolving persona. Within family life, especially through Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, their connection remained natural and unforced, with shared holidays and milestones maintaining a sense of unity. Over time, Sarah's optimism and renewed purpose provided Andrew with a steadiness he could no longer draw from public life alone. Her reinvention strengthened her, but it also, knowingly or not, became part of the foundation that continued to support him. And so, a subtle question remains. In rebuilding herself, did she also help hold him together? Behind the gentle image of companionship that surrounds Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew lies a more delicate truth, one shaped not by scandal or sensation, but by the quieter pressures that accumulate over time. For all the optimism that defined Fergie's public reinvention, the reality behind the scenes was often far more complex. Her ventures, though varied and sincere, carried risks as well as rewards. Some flourished, others placed her under significant financial strain. Reports over the years have described periods of mounting pressure, from business debts to the challenge of sustaining a lifestyle shaped by royal proximity, but not royal funding. Through it all, she projected determination and warmth, yet the effort required to maintain stability was considerable. These challenges unfolded as Andrew faced a shifting landscape of his own. His role within the monarchy, once clear and structured, entered a period of uncertainty. Public scrutiny intensified, duties thinned, and traditions that once anchored his identity began to blur. In this atmosphere, Royal Lodge, the stately home he has long occupied, stood as both refuge and responsibility. Its sweeping lawns and quiet corridors offered familiarity, yet the weight of maintaining such a residence, both financially and symbolically, underscored how deeply his life had changed. It was within this shared terrain of pressure that their interdependence deepened. Observers often noted how naturally they seemed to gravitate toward one another, not out of duty, but out of a mutual need for steadiness. Sarah found in Andrew a structure that her professional life did not always guarantee. Andrew found in Sarah a presence that softened the solitude created by public retreat. Together, they formed a quiet axis of support, two people navigating pressures that neither could face entirely alone. Yet beneath this closeness lived a question without an easy answer. When loyalty becomes part of a survival strategy, its meaning shifts. What begins as affection can slowly evolve into obligation. What feels like companionship can over time resemble necessity. Their enduring bond, admired by many for its warmth, also carried an emotional weight rarely acknowledged in public. It is one thing to choose someone's company. It is another to rely upon it because the alternatives feel too uncertain. This section sits at the crossroads of those realities. It recognises the dignity of their loyalty while acknowledging that such loyalty has a cost: financial, emotional, and deeply personal. As desk drawers close softly inside Royal Lodge and rain gathers beneath the old garden bench, the atmosphere hints at a truth seldom spoken aloud: that even the strongest bonds can be shaped by pressures neither person intended. In this quiet tension, the nature of their connection becomes more intricate. It invites a question that lingers gently, without judgment. How much of their lasting closeness is a testament to love, and how much is the quiet consequence of circumstance? There comes a point in every public life when the atmosphere shifts, not abruptly, but with a slow gathering of clouds that signals a change no institution can fully reverse. For Prince Andrew, that moment arrived with unmistakable clarity. His royal engagements were stepped back or suspended. Public sentiment cooled to a level not seen in his earlier years, and the tone surrounding his name changed from formality to scrutiny. According to official statements, his role within the monarchy was reshaped, and what had once felt assured became uncertain almost overnight. The stability of tradition, long a defining feature of his life, no longer offered the same protection. Amid this shift, Sarah Ferguson's presence took on a new significance. She did not issue proclamations or public defences. Instead, her loyalty was expressed through the quieter language of proximity. She arrived at Royal Lodge when headlines sharpened, stayed nearby when institutional distance grew more visible, and continued to share a home with the man whose public world was narrowing. Her support appeared not theatrical, but instinctive, a steadying force offered without fanfare. Observers noted how this period recast the dynamics between them. For decades, their bond had been seen as unconventional but amicable, a divorced couple who shared a home out of habit, history, and affection. But when Andrew's role changed dramatically, the nature of that companionship seemed to shift. It became clearer, even to those who had followed their story only loosely, that Sarah's presence was not merely a matter of comfort. It was a form of refuge at a time when few certainties remained. The contrast between their trajectories amplified the poignancy of this moment. Sarah's long arc of reinvention had given her purpose, independence, and a stable place in public life. Andrew's path, by contrast, contracted sharply. Where she had climbed steadily towards renewal, he faced a period defined by withdrawal. This divergence created an emotional paradox. The one who had rebuilt herself became the anchor for the one whose world had grown smaller. Throughout, the narrative surrounding them remained sensitive and complex. The focus was not on blame or conjecture, but on the human response to pressure. In moments of collapse, people often cling to what feels most familiar, most forgiving. For Andrew, that familiar presence was Fergie, the person who had known him before titles, before turbulence, before the world changed course. As newspapers slid through Royal Lodge's letterbox at dawn and a single lamp glowed through the quiet of its rooms, the landscape of their relationship shifted again. What had long appeared unconventional now seemed essential, and in that subdued light, a simple truth emerged. In times of uncertainty, people turned to the bonds that refused to disappear. In the months that followed, Prince Andrew stepped back from public duties. The atmosphere around him settled into a new and unmistakably altered shape. The monarchy adjusted its expectations. Responsibilities were redistributed, and visibility, once central to his role, diminished to a faint outline. The institution, careful and measured in its language, drew clearer boundaries around what was appropriate, necessary, and sustainable for the future. This recalibration created a landscape in which Andrew's presence was quieter, more private, and increasingly defined by the routines of life at Royal Lodge. Within this revised framework, Sarah Ferguson's proximity took on a different resonance. Her presence inside the house, a feature of their lives for years, now carried a sense of renewed significance. What had once seemed simply unconventional became, in the public imagination, part of the explanation for how he was coping. She remained close in the practical sense, familiar with the rhythms of the estate, engaged with family moments, and present for the ordinary shape of Andrew's days. But she was also close in the emotional sense, offering a steadiness that had become a defining thread in his reduced world. Their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, appeared to provide the glue that held the family in gentle alignment. They continued to visit, to celebrate milestones, and to treat Royal Lodge as a home rather than a symbol. In doing so, they helped to create an atmosphere that softened what might otherwise have been a stark period of transition. Their presence anchored both parents, allowing family life to retain a coherence that might have been lost under different circumstances. As time passed, it became apparent that the aftermath had revealed something deeper than habit or affection. The bond between Andrew and Fergie was not simply emotional, it had become structural. He relied on her familiarity, her organisational instincts, and her ability to offer stability without judgment. She, in turn, found herself woven into the practical and emotional fabric of his future. Decisions about the estate, household arrangements, and day-to-day life often placed them side by side, even when the public no longer expected or required it. For Sarah, this evolving role created a quiet question, one that lingered beneath the surface rather than demanding an answer. Was she providing support out of long-standing loyalty, or had her life become shaped by the weight of someone else's consequences? The line between devotion and duty thinned, leaving an emotional texture that defied easy categorization. As evening light spills through the half-drawn curtains of Royal Lodge and family photographs sit arranged in careful symmetry, the reality becomes clear. The aftermath did not simply follow the collapse. It settled in, reshaping routines, relationships, and expectations in ways that will continue to echo long after headlines. Move on. In the quiet that follows years of noise, a different picture begins to form, one that resists the simplicity of reunion or separation. Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew stand in a space between definitions, bound by a history that has weathered transformation, expectation, and the slow reshaping of their public lives. What remains is not a formal partnership, nor a rekindled romance, but a companionship that has endured when so much else has fallen away. Their story invites a gentler kind of observation. It asks us to look beyond titles and roles, beyond the familiar cadence of royal narrative, and to see instead the human instinct for connection. After decades of change, the two of them still move in tandem, sometimes by choice, sometimes by circumstance, but always with a quiet acknowledgement that their lives were set on parallel tracks long before the world began to watch them so closely. In reflecting on their journey, one notices how loyalty has shifted in meaning over time. At moments, it appears generous, almost tender, the mark of two people who have learned to forgive each other's imperfections. At other times, it feels heavier, shaped by consequence rather than comfort. Andrew's world grew narrower, Fergie's grew more self-made, yet their paths continued to meet in the middle, in that familiar place where shared memories outlast public roles. Here, the future remains an open question. The monarchy around them evolves, the expectations placed upon it tighten and adapt, and yet this partnership persists quietly, almost stubbornly. It is neither a model to emulate nor a mystery to solve. It is simply the outcome of two lives that never fully untangled after marriage ended. As candlelight flickers beside a rain-streaked window, the documentary leaves viewers with a final, unhurried thought. Perhaps some relationships endure not because they fit neatly within the structures that surround them, but because they outgrow those structures entirely. And in a world defined by scrutiny and symbolism, one question lingers gently in the air. Can a bond forged in the past continue to shape the future? And what does it cost to let it do so?